So I'm Roger Sands. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Wyebot. I've been in the networking sector for 30 years and running high-tech business units for 25 years. Prior to starting Wyebot, I ran HP's Wi-Fi business globally for 7 years. So I'm going to give you an overview of the company, and then we'll hand it over to Anil to go through the technology. So the first is the challenge. What drove us to start Wyebot, right? Huge industry challenge out there, which you're familiar with. Right? Wi-Fi has become the on-ramp to the internet, right? Business critical technology across most verticals today. But the challenge is it's intermittent, right? You could be in a manufacturing facility, right, with robots moving around, and the inventory within the manufacturing facility or the warehouse has an impact on the robots. Healthcare, we're talking patient monitoring systems, right? Tablets for doctors and nurses. Again, as they move around the healthcare facility, right? We move into retail with point of sale, education, e-learning, one-to-one computing. So as you can see, these market segments, the industry has shifted to business critical Wi-Fi, mission critical Wi-Fi, right? It now has become a utility. But what happens in these dynamic environments are intermittent issues. We've all had them. Right? You're on a Teams call, you're on a Zoom call, the screen freezes, right? Again, roaming around a facility, and we run into technology challenges, power save. As we move around also, you can have the best network design in terms of site surveys and APs and channel planning. But what happens is everything else in the ecosystem, right? We're talking neighbors, hotspots, personal devices, IoT, it's just an explosion of IoT devices. So these networks are extremely complex and extremely dynamic. And so we decided to change the game. We decided to move to automation. And that's where Wyebot comes in, right? So what Wyebot does is we monitor these business mission critical Wi-Fi ecosystems, these environments for the customers, 24/7. We monitor them, we analyze them, and we automatically identify performance-related issues. So when I was at HP running the business, I would have engineers going on site all over the world to these complex environments, solving these intermittent issues. And we said, it has to change. The networks are getting more complex. The technology, as we know, is evolving very quickly. New security standards, Wi-Fi 6E coming to the market. And so how do we build a system that can help IT organizations that's responsible for business continuity, right? That's the goal here, is for these IT organizations to make sure they have business continuity. And in most of these environments, as we discussed, Wi-Fi is the technology of choice at the edge. And so we built a system that monitors these environments. We analyze them, and as I mentioned, we proactively identify performance-related issues, 24/7. And that's what's key about this. Both frequency bands, 2.4 and 5 gig, 24/7. So if you're in a hospital, doctors and nurses moving around, tablets, Vocera badges, etc., and there's an issue at 11 o'clock at night, ticket gets opened, IT comes in the morning, problem's gone away. And we can go through case by case of these type of issues, right? Dorm rooms, right? Universities globally tend to be very busy from 10 at night to 2 in the morning, right? That's when there's the most activity, streaming video, online learning, and they have intermittent issues. IT comes in the morning, tickets are opened, problem's gone away. Now they have to wait patiently for it to happen again, and then troubleshoot and analyze and solve the problems. So what we do at Wyebot, as I mentioned, is we analyze these. We run through an AI engine, all the data that we're collecting through an AI engine to proactively identify the issues. So you can think of this as IT automation, Wi-Fi automation, right? Taking what today is a highly manual, reactive process for most IT organizations to proactive and automated. That's our goal here, right? So I'll go through the benefits of this type of technology. So from the system point of view,
Before you
Yeah.
carry on, and you may address this later, I apologize. I'm Landon Foster, ASI Wi-Fi and Texan app. You said that you monitor 2.4 and 5 gigahertz simultaneously. What's your sweep times look like? How often do you hop channels?
So the benefit of this, and you're going to see in the technology section shortly,
Sure.
we have a multi-radio IoT sensor, multi-radio, best in the market, and we'll cover that. As a result of that, we can stay dedicated on channels and not time slice, and that's why we built a multi-radio sensor. So we have a dedicated radio on 2.4, we have a dedicated radio on 5 gigahertz. And so they're constantly on those channels. And then we have a third Wi-Fi radio, you get a lot more details shortly, that's scanning all the channels all the time. So we have dedicated and time sliced. Yes.
How about 6 gigahertz band?
Yes. You want to answer that, Anil?
Yes, we are working on the 6E as well. So you'll see, a 6E version of the sensor as well.
So key components of the solution, right? High level here. You'll see a lot more detail and demos coming up. That the first key pillar is autonomic Wi-Fi, right? Autonomic Wi-Fi. This is the ability to analyze these environments. And we're talking 802.11 packets at line rate. 802.11 packets at line rate. Every single packet on the channels that we're monitoring, we analyze and look for events of interest. Autonomic Wi-Fi is analyzing them and it proactively identifying the performance issues. It could be interference, congestion, connectivity, authentication, right? All the challenges, neighbors, hotspots that we talked about, printers, everything that comes into the ecosystem, we're monitoring, we're analyzing, and we use our AI technology to identify the problem, and we provide solutions, actionable items to the IT organizations to solve these problems. So now they get a proactive alert. Issue occurring, here's the actionable item to solve the problem. Game changer for IT, distributed enterprises, campus environments, business critical, mission critical Wi-Fi. Second, synthetic network testing. Extremely important, right? The ability to act as an end user. Now, today, for most IT organizations, and we're focused on enterprise, global enterprise companies and education, and IT is our end users, right? And so today, IT would, in most cases, have to go on site to a location, to a manufacturing facility, to a hospital clinic, to run quality checks, performance checks on the network, right? It's Wi-Fi. You have to be in the vicinity of the access point. For example, this conference room, right? If you wanted to measure the quality of the user experience, you need to be in this conference room and running some quality checks, right? So synthetic network testing is the ability to run these quality checks 24/7. So now IT organizations can put our IoT sensors around into business critical, mission critical environments, set up the automated synthetic testing, and they're going to get what the user's experience is in that location. And when we're talking user experience, this is beyond Wi-Fi connectivity. We're talking the entire internet experience, all the elements within networking, DHCP, DNS, gateway, firewalls, etc. We're going to do quality checks and metrics on all of that. And now you can set up SLAs. So IT can define, based on their business requirements, what type of service agreement they're looking for their end users. And that can vary a lot. On a guest SSID, you would imagine that the service level agreement could be very different from a voice services SSID in a hospital or a manufacturing facility with robots, etc. Now you set up the SLAs. We have the proactive quality checks going 24/7, and yes, alerting and reporting on any performance-related issues. The beauty of this is you can actually measure these SLA and these metrics over time to detect performance drops as networks degrade. And in the Wi-Fi world, that's often the case. they don't just stop working. They start to drop in performance based on number of users, connectivity, et cetera. And so having devices around your network that can act as users, as clients, giving these metrics is extremely important. And you can stay ahead of the game because the goal here is to be proactive and identify these issues. Yes.
Do y'all have like, is there a list on your website or some documentation somewhere that goes through every single different, I guess, metrics or SLEs that you measure that kind of have, you know, bulleted list of something like that?
So there is. On our website, we have a list of all of the quality checks that we support within our device. All right, so we can get that off the website.
So obviously, you've got these client devices, which are static sensors, acting as clients. One of the big issues we see with clients is roaming issues. Obviously, your device isn't going to move and roam APs. Is there anything you can do to sort of simulate roams within an environment?
So, Peter, that's an interesting question to know about roaming. So, of course, the sensor by default in its installation does not, roam. But we have actually had people who have put our sensor on a robot device as well. So you can certainly measure, roaming and that kind of behavior as well. There is one, I wouldn't say challenge, but one behavior that becomes different when you put our sensor on a robot. We normally build a list of APs, that you can see. So if the sensor, it depends if it is sitting on a robot that is moving at 25 miles an hour, that list now can become, what you see on the dashboard. So it is possible. It is certainly possible if you wish to do that. There are some customers who have done that, but in most cases it's, sitting in a fixed environment, but there are use cases where you can do that, certainly.
Is there any way to sort of tune your sensor to act like clients that we might see in the industry? So sometimes you get compatibility issues with certain clients, like it might be, a Samsung phone or an iPhone, and because of the certain maybe 802.11 amendments that they may support. I didn't know if you were able to sort of turn on and off certain features to make it the client act like specific common clients.
So I would say partially yes. As a matter of fact, that is one of the features we are adding in an upcoming release, where we know that with this WPA3, and I know Tom just before this meeting, he was trying to set up the Wi-Fi network here in this room, and there was issues, WPA2 pre-shared key, and he had to go enable SAE until clients could connect. So we are actually going to essentially allow you to override all of those settings. You can choose your list of AKM suites, you can choose your list of pairwise ciphers and group ciphers, and then see how the AP behaves. Are you able to connect or not connect? So we'll have a setting where you can make the sensor connect with the default configuration of the AP, which is whatever it's advertising in the beacon. And then we can also make it such that you go and select and choose what cipher suites you want to do, and see, now am I able to connect? And I know, especially with WPA3, we are seeing that the whole transition phase, and we are seeing different vendors, define, I'm not blaming any vendor, like what, vendor A calls as WPA3 PSK transition versus or WPA3 enterprise, and each vendor's UI is slightly different as well. So we'll cover that maybe in the demo more. I'll let Roger continue.
Thank
And
you.
so I did have a question. The radios in the sensor, are they 802.11 only radios, or can you identify RF events? Are you doing any sort of fingerprinting? Can you tell me when I have a leaky microwave? Can you tell me when?
Yes, so good question. In addition, they're 802.11, but in addition to that, we have spectrum analysis built in. Both frequency bands 24/7. So we automatically pick up microwave, Bluetooth, gaming devices, all that's automated with events right on the dashboard.
And then in terms of for the synthetic testing, all forms of authentication, TLS, I can push certificates to the device.
Certificate, capture portal, it's all supported. And Peter, I wanted to give you one more comment on the roaming scenario in addition to what Anil said, because we have customers. Our radios are software configurable for the two primary radios that are doing the AI technology. And so both of those primary radios can be on 5 gigahertz or both on 2.4. And so customers will use 2 of our sensors, right, to catch roaming scenarios within clients that are out there, right? Because one's on 5 gig 1, one's on 5 gig 2, covering the 2 channels where the roaming scenarios take place. So we cover that option as well. Yeah.
One more question. How dense are you deploying these? Like one per room, per AP, kind of?
Yeah, it varies based on customer requirements, right? So for, what we call business critical, mission critical environments, they'll do 1 sensor for every 4 access points, on average, right? And then it can vary based on other, depending on the vertical segment. Last key item is historical analytics. I wanted to mention this because we have a very rich set of analytics. Now that covers all kinds of data sets. But again, for IT organizations, what's important is to trending analysis, right? You want to see trending analysis of how the Wi-Fi is operating before, during, after events, even like something like this, right? And so we have device forensics, which you're going to see shortly, which covers client information about the client user experience over time, right? We also have all kinds of historical data pertaining to the RF environment, to the problem solution. So rich set of analytics to help IT organizations to measure ongoing performance. Customer value prop, number 1, reduction in mean time to resolution. These are thorny, nasty challenges that we're solving. Okay, this isn't, the Wi-Fi network's down. That's important. Everybody's got to know about that. We're talking about all the challenging intermittent issues that can take hours, days, and even weeks for these companies to solve, especially in remote locations. All of that now with our AI, with our edge computing, 90%, up to 90% reduction in mean time to resolution. Obviously, reduction in Wi-Fi tickets, performance issues, because we're monitoring the environment and we're being proactive, right? Heading off issues before they disrupt your users. And reduction in site visits. Most of the global enterprise customers don't have IT or at least Wi-Fi expertise in all their locations. Now they can have back at their NOC at the headquarters, complete visibility into the Wi-Fi ecosystem in all those locations.
If the sensor loses comms to the management system, do you have some sort of local storage on the sensor that buffers the information so that when the comms comes back up, that it can feed back into the rest of the analytics without skewing it?
Yes, we do. We store it locally on the sensor for, what's the time frame?
2 hours.
2 hours?
2 hours.
Yeah, up to 2 hours.
All right, well then my follow-up is, if the device is powered by PoE and the switch went down for some reason, do you have a local battery in the device to keep it up, to kind of report, and maybe a SIM card to report back to say, well, look, lost power, Wi-Fi still up, but switch is gone?
I can help answer that. So I know where the question is coming from. Yes, there are vendors who have batteries and kind of last gas power. Essentially, what you're trying to solve is, can I get notification when the sensor can no longer communicate, right? So we actually do have a heartbeat mechanism, which is actually driven by the cloud. So when it stops receiving the heartbeat, from the sensor, it will basically, you can be notified that the sensor has now become unreachable. So it's not via battery, but the end goal is being achieved via the cloud notifying you.
Somewhat related, you can also not use Ethernet to do your connection to the cloud, right? You can also do wireless backhaul.
We support Wi-Fi backhaul, yes, to the internet. Correct. We support both wired and Wi-Fi. Okay, so I'm gonna pause here. Any other questions for me? Again, Roger Sands, my email's on the slide. The good news for customers is we do free trials. So it's a great way for our customers to experience the gains, the automation, the AI technology. We just ship them out 1 or 2 units and they do a trial, no obligation, and they get to see it in their live environment. Yes, question?
If I may, coming from a background where funds may be limited, and more and more vendors, have AI visibility and single pane of glass visibility in all that, and they offer sensors. What makes your product unique. Why would someone add another layer of product over their current deployment?
Yeah, what I'd like to do is we'll walk through the technology in the demo, because that should answer your question,
All right.
right? We have some incredible capabilities, right? We're growing extremely fast globally into the enterprise. And we also have a rich API, a full API that customers use to pull the data into their single pane of glass, into their Splunk systems, et cetera. So to help with that integration step, we've got that built into the solution today.